what is this place? A subterranean labyrinth where everything is alive and also trying to kill you. But remember, above all else, folks, when you're in said subterranean labyrinth, it's all about the follow-through. Strange World comes to us from director Don Hall, who brought us Big Hero 6 and Moana, and also from Kwai Nguyen, I hope I pronounced that name right, if not, I do apologize. They wrote Raya and the Last Dragon, which I absolutely need to check out at some point, because I'm pretty certain I mispronounced Raya. It's probably Raya, but nevertheless, let's get back to this movie. So, it reunites Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal as father and son, like in Day After Tomorrow. Fortunately, this movie is better than Day After Tomorrow, but then again, I have shat things out better than Day After Tomorrow. There is a family of explorers named the Clades. We have Jaeger Clade, not Jägermeister, even though that would explain a few things in this movie, voiced by Dennis Quaid. Searcher Clade, voiced by Jake Gyllenhaal. And then we have Meridian Clade, voiced by Gabrielle Union. And then we have Ethan Clade. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the man's name. I'm not going to. Just look at the name. You'll figure it's what? A Jaboke, young white. Probably got that wrong. And also we have Lucy Liu as somebody that operates an airship. And then we have other people in this movie. So as far as like voice casts for Disney animated movies, it's not necessarily the most loaded, but that's there are a few stars there. So, if you saw advertisements for this movie, congratulations, you were one of the lucky few, because this Disney animated adventure focuses on the Clades, a family of explorers that are desperate to go beyond the mountains of Avalonia. And they are trying to, because that's their home base, village, city, something, whatever. And they are bound and determined to figure out what's beyond these mountains. And certain events lead to the family being separated, because you got to keep them separated. Hey. And then 25 years later, Searcher is basically living the farm life with his son Ethan and his wife Meridian, and wondering what happened to his dad, because his dad decided to go on and do his thing, and they decided to stay behind. Also, they found a weird energy ball thingy that was growing in the mountains, and now it's populated everywhere in this world, called Pando. And basically it powers everything. It gives, great electrical charges and makes them a vibrant metropolis and everything. And then certain things start happening that threaten their way of life, and they have to go and figure out what the hell is going on using airship power and ingenuity and science and the Pando power. Not Panda Express, not Pando Express. They have to figure out what's going on, solve this mystery before Avalonia is history. Avalonia Tales? Woohoo! Okay, so if you did see advertisements for this, you are one of the lucky few, because this movie was horribly advertised. It was out at the same time as Encanto was. Now, Encanto actually was, I'm not going to say it's the most successful movie that Disney ever had, but it was certainly more wildly successful than this, also more memorable, also more vibrant, also more colorful, also had better characters, a better family dynamic, and look, let's just watch Encanto instead. Strange World cost about between $120 and $140 million, depending on what reports you believe, and made roughly $62 million worldwide. It's also it's already out on Disney Plus. It was out on Disney Plus within a month of being out in theaters. Now you might be able to find a theater that's still showing it as of this recording, but you're better off just watching on Disney Plus. Why? Because this movie, it's fine. It's fine. It's basically Journey to the Center of the Earth, mixed with a little bit of Atlantis Lost Empire, mixed with a bunch of other Disney movies that did infinitely better. And I'm not going to say the movie's necessarily bad. There are a few positives. The visuals are kind of stunning at times, and also what will cause pearl clutchers to just get upset is the LGBTQ influence of a couple characters, particularly the son Ethan. But other than, everybody just lost their goddamn shit with Encanto and lost their goddamn shit with Turning Red, but I digress. That's another funny thing I want to talk about before I really get into spoilers. This didn't get much of an advertisement campaign and got shoved out in theaters on Thanksgiving weekend when, yes, I understand Wakanda Forever had come out, but you could have literally put this out maybe Halloween weekend and it probably would have been more successful, because this just ended up flopping. It flopped hard. It flopped really goddamn hard. Now, outside of the visuals of certain creatures and everything and certain designs, this movie is pretty basic. There are going to be no catchy songs. It almost feels a little bit long in the tooth, and I think it only runs about 90 minutes, but it's also a story you've seen before. They've done movies like Treasure Planet, which was full on animated and flopped way, way harder than this, but they've had their share of flops, Disney has. This isn't going to be something that people will necessarily remember, even though there are a few decent moments. There's no distinguishable character. Sure, the father-son dynamic of Jake Gyllenhaal and the Ethan character, and then also Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal. That's fine. That's fine for what it is. But there are more questions than answers when it comes to this kind of thing. And yeah, it wraps it up in a nice, neat little bow for later and maybe a possible sequel. And there's some neat little comic art in the beginning showing how great the Clades are as explorers. So great that they just separate from each other and everything. It just, I don't know. I mean, again, the LGBTQ influence of some characters, some people clutching their pearls, and it is what it is. I mean, I just wish that there was representation in a better movie, because unfortunately this movie, while not awful, is not something that anybody's really going to remember as one of the best Disney movies of even the last year. I mean, Turning Red got shoved out on Disney Plus and was infinitely, and I mean infinitely better than this. Had a little bit of a marketing campaign, and I ended up being very, very surprised by Turning Red. This, I wasn't necessarily, I was surprised by how bland it was, and it was pretty boring, and that's really all I have to say right there. So, it's on Disney Plus. You're better off just watching it with your kids there. Or watch it with some adults. Maybe the adults will enjoy it. I've seen worse, but I've also seen better, and it just ends up being overall barely above average. It is what it is. Every studio has misfires, and by God, this was certainly a misfire. Not the worst, certainly not the worst, but not the best at all. So let's get into spoilers. Again, on Disney Plus, if you want to check it out, maybe a theater still got it showing. If you really want to go up, but just go to Disney Plus. Why not? Anyway, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay. So, it turns out that Jaeger has been living in this strange world area when they take this airship to figure out what's happening to this Pando. Why are the Pando crops dying? These weird electrical balls. This ship goes down, this giant airship or whatever. No Sid from Final Fantasy 3, no, wait, 2 or 4 in Japan, and also 7. And no Setzer with his airship. That's a deep cut for the Final Fantasy fans. But anyway, pretty certain I mispronounced one of those names. Pretty certain I forgot other airships from like the later games that I haven't played in a while. Anyway, they get into this world. There's this fighting between Ethan and Searcher because Ethan wants to do his own thing. He wants everybody to live in harmony. He may not want to be a farmer. He kind of wants to be a bit of an explorer, but also use his farming skills. And then their ship crash lands because there are these creatures attacking. Now, why are these creatures attacking? There's these weird bubble, slime ball things that fold out and get like the tentacles, everything, and do. And then also there's this weird slime that they nicknamed Splat later that I assume is supposed to be like a mascot or possibly a toy, and it just ends up being generic. Ethan meets Splat. Ethan helps Splat. Splat helps Ethan. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on with Pando. They think all these creatures are actually trying to attack the heart or the center of this, this one root and everything with the Pando. They're trying to attack it, but every time they attack the Pando, it electrifies them and kills them. So they decide to use that against them, and they decide to use this. Eventually, they find Jaeger, and he almost looks a bit like an older Moana with all the facial hair and everything. But then he shaves that off, and now he's got gray hair, and he's doing all that. And yeah, there's some arguments between father and son and grandfather and son and all this and everything, and it's all wrapped up in a nice, neat little ball that just does all the tentacle stuff. Okay. Then there's a attempted mutiny by the crew, led by Lucy Liu. I didn't even attempt for that to rhyme, and I don't even have the time, but that felt really forced. There's no real sense of stakes in this, like no sense of anybody being in danger, or any story arc. Like there really isn't. It just kind of stays on a linear path. And what ends up happening is Ethan and Searcher kind of have a bit of an argument. There are these creatures that do help them by helping them float along and everything, almost like they're weird little slimes. Actually, at first I thought this Splat was going to be like the slime from Dragon Quest, but no, he wasn't like that. Yeah, that's a little bit more of a deep cut for RPG fans. And everybody comes together, everybody manages to bond, and also it turns out that trying to get beyond the mountains, Jaeger ended up getting stuck there, and he was like he couldn't find a way out, so he's just been living like that for a while. Well, then during a heart-to-heart talk that Ethan and Searcher were having, they floated out and they found that, oh, they're on the other side of the mountains. Oh, there's this weird eye that we're looking at, and oh, it turns out that our world is on the back of a giant turtle, because why not? And also, it turns out this Pando is an infection that these creatures that are part of the immune system are trying to kill. So they end up digging into the Pando stuff, even though it's going to destroy their way of life. They'll figure out a better way of life, because if they keep using Pando, then the world dies. And they kind of need to live there because that's where they live. They kind of need to be on the world. It's like taking care of the earth. Whole ecosystem needs to be revamped. They managed to get the creatures in there. The creatures destroyed the Pando roots, and boom! And everybody's back and fine. Everybody's all right. And Ethan is off with his boyfriend, Diazo, I think Diazo, I think that's the name of him. And it's kind of like a Godzilla versus Kong thing, where they're in the inner world taking care and cleaning up all this stuff and working with people. And everybody's trying to improve the world and make it a better place. Which is a good message. It's just, unfortunately, the movie itself is pretty bland. I mean, it's just kind of generic, and that's why I'm giving it a C+. There really isn't much to this movie. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Reckland. I'll see you soon.